Today on Sports Talk Philadelphia, it's Phillies Preview Day. Before the team and media head down to Clearwater, I brought in Matt Breen of the Philadelphia Inquirer to break down the Phils. We'll look at some of the younger and older faces on this ball club as we make some assumptions about the roster before camp gets underway. We'll also take a look at some of the Phillies' top prospects and see just how close they are to cracking the Major League lineup. Did you forget about us like how I forgot the Fast Five last week? Well, it's okay. You're here now and you're just in time because STP starts right now. Let's go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I am your host, Tyler Harper. Like I said in that little intro there, it's our day to preview the Philadelphia Phillies going into 2016 because it actually feels kind of good to do that with the little bit of a change in the atmosphere, of course, a change in their front office, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. But first, let me introduce my panel. First, in the middle, from the Philadelphia Inquirer, a guy who I used to call my boss at one point, Mr. Matt Breen. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man.
And down there on the left, we have our Phillies aficionado from Reading, Pennsylvania himself, Mr. Alec Hosful. Thanks for joining us, Alec.
It's always good to be back, Tyler.
All right, and it's good to talk some Phillies baseball, which is kind of weird to say because the past couple years it's been kind of, Phillies, we know what they're going to be. But, of course, as we could see here, a change in the front office as a little out with the old, in with the new. Ruben Amaro Jr., of course, relieved of his duties as Phillies general manager. And then the new regime takes over. Andy MacPhail as the new team president, and shaking hands right there with new GM Matt Klentak, former assistant with the Angels. So, Matt, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Alec. I mean, I've already kind of said it a couple times, but how kind of refreshing is it for this new regime to really take over, and not only that, but to see the moves they've been making already, which are moves that Ruben Amaro Jr. really should have been making for this team a couple years ago?
Yeah, definitely. It's a whole fresh outlook on the team this year. And obviously, before we get started, they're not going to be good this year. They're not going to contend, but they're going to be interesting to watch because of the moves that Matt Klentak's making, that Andy MacPhail's making. I'm excited to get down there and cover this team a lot more than I was, say, last year. It's a whole new team.
Yeah, I mean, not only with a better looking or at least more promising team, but better weather. It's pretty warm down there and it's pretty cold here today. But Alec, how refreshing is it to see not only the old GM who stayed probably a couple years too long out and this new regime take over and start to make the low risk, high reward moves?
Oh, I'm very excited. I love it. Just feels like Phillies baseball once again. It's great. It's going to actually be exciting to see these young guys come up and actually play Phillies baseball. Not what we've seen the past 3 years where it's just been like, oh, we'll try to contend, wink, 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 wink.
Yeah, we'll try to contend, but we'll fail. So, but let's get into one of the older pieces on this team, pun intended, because we got to start with the big piece, Ryan Howard. You can see his stats there, 229 batting average, 23 home runs, 77 RBI, 138 strikeouts. And you can see the little caption at the end there, big piece farewell tour. It's no secret this is probably going to be Ryan Howard's last year in Phillies pinstripes. But Alec, how kind of weird is that to say? Because Ryan Howard and Carlos Ruiz, who we'll get to a little later, they're the two last stalwarts from this 2008 team.
It is weird, but it's Ryan Howard's time to go. He's overstayed his welcome a while, especially with that whole contract mess that Ruben Amaro decided to give him before his contract was even up. It'll be good to see a refreshing new face at first base, but it will be weird.
Matt?
Yeah, it's obviously Ryan Howard's last year. they're not going to pick up his option next year. But it's kind of fascinating to see. 5 years ago when they did sign this contract, which wasn't, and it's not that bad of a deal. The money wasn't that much.
Right.
But he's the best slugger, second best slugger probably in Phillies history. And now at the end of his contract, you're kicking him out the door. It's never happened in the history of Philadelphia sports that someone has went from that high to that low in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's been kind of strange.
Especially, and it happened in Philadelphia. Like Allen Iverson, went to the Detroit Pistons or something.
Yeah.
No one has ever done this before. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. And also fascinating was Pete Mackanin flat out saying in his press conference close to a month ago now that if Ryan Howard doesn't hit lefties better, he's going to get platooned with Darren Ruff, which hasn't happened before. At least it happened like somewhat, quote unquote. But even so, like because of the money he was making, it basically, quote unquote, guaranteed him a spot in that starting lineup. So, Alec, how kind of interesting is it that Pete Mackanin flat out said that no, like if he doesn't hit lefties better, he's going to get platooned because Ryan Sandberg and even Charlie Manuel, when Howard was kind of dipping off, never really did that.
Well, I think it's definitely good. They need to. If he can't hit lefties, what is he going to do? Because he's hitting righties at an all right pace, but come on, Darren Ruff killed lefties last year. So if you platoon those two, it'll be a nice combination at first. And Ryan Howard isn't getting any younger. Having him out on the field is already, a detriment to the team.
I'll say somewhat, but mainly at the plate, because honestly, fielding he's not bad. But Matt, what do you think of Mackanin's comments?
Yeah, I think this is something Pete wanted to do last year when he was the interim manager, but as interim manager, it's not really your team, and now, it is his team, so this is something he's going to implement this season, and, we'll see what happens. All
right, and now let's move on to the catcher's position, because, as again, I talked about it earlier, but I feel like there is a lot to talk about. So let's talk about Carlos Ruiz, of course, fan favorite Chooch, not doing what he used to. Of course, there you see his stats last year, .211 batting average, just 2 home runs, 22 RBI. And, of course, the little Star Wars joke there because I'm kind of a nerd. But Chooch kind of really is playing the role of, like, Yoda, like this mentor to not only Cameron Rupp, who we'll talk about out in a little bit, but also to, like, these young pitchers who are coming up because he was so helpful when they had not only just Cole Hamels, but Roy Halladay and all those aces. So it's going to be huge for him to work with those young catchers and help them get into a rhythm. So even though he may not be producing it as much, Matt, how big is that just calming influence he'll have on this roster?
Definitely, and that was, like you said, it's what he's always been known for, his camaraderie with the pitching staff, and it hasn't changed. He's working a lot with Aaron Nola, Jared Eichhoff last season, and then Cameron Rupp has talked about this offseason how he still talks to Carlos Ruiz almost once a week. Carlos Ruiz isn't a bitter guy that just like Ryan Howard, he's at the end of his time. He's trying to help out. He's definitely a good clubhouse guy.
Alec, what do you think?
It's great to have Carlos Ruiz around. He's a great mentor. The things that Roy Halladay talks about him, how he gives him like most of the credit for his perfect game, and how he is tied for the most no-hitters caught with Jason Varitek. It just shows what company Carlos Ruiz is in and what he can do beyond on the field.
Yeah, and Alec, real quick, we mentioned Cameron Rupp. In fact, let's see his stats real quick. But Cameron Rupp, of course, having a big really a big August and September. There you can see his stats. You can see the question right there real quick. Is Cameron Rupp the favorite to be the starting catcher?
I think he is at this point. I think it'll be more like a 5-2 split between Ruiz, something around that. I do like Rupp. He's nice, intermediary piece right now until we start contending again. But I do like him. He'll be a decent starting catcher. He has some nice power that'll shock you sometimes. But yeah, I'm good with Rupp right now.
All right, and let's move up. And speaking of power, let's move on from Cameron Rupp to Maikel Franco, who is, of course, when he hits a ball, if he can get all of it, smacks it out of the park. 280 batting average, 14 home runs, and 50 RBI. Matt, you could see the caption right there. I think Maikel Franco, if he could be what this club thinks he could be, and what he's shown he can be, I think he could be the centerpiece or a centerpiece of this club. Don't you agree?
I think he's probably, a big piece of the puzzle. And I think the centerpiece is probably J.P. Crawford, who's going to start the season either at AA or AAA, but you'll see him in spring training. But, I mean, Franco had a great season last year, and he's definitely a guy that you could pencil in at batting fourth for the next 10 years if you're lucky.
Yeah, Alec, talk about Maikel Franco, and do you think he'll be batting fourth on, I guess, opening day?
Well, on opening day, we'll see. I'm not sure, but I'll say probably. But just to refer to like his future, I'd like to refer back to the nights he had at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, just really like that was really his like coming out party. Like coming up to the plate and just. I mean, of course, Yankee Stadium is a very hitter-friendly park, but even so, the fact that he just, of course, it's the New York Yankees, so they have that aura, but he can't aim up and just really showed the world, all right, this is what I can do to help my team. Matt, like, how big of a statement was that?
Daunted at all by the big stage. You know, it's not the old Yankee Stadium, but it's still Yankee Stadium, and I think that was his, like you said, his coming out party. That's when he told Major League Baseball that, you know, who he was, and it really put him on the map.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. And we talk about, like, people who can be centerpieces. I mean, you mentioned J.P. Crawford. We'll get to him a little bit later in the show. But let's talk about Aaron Nola, because we were talking a little bit about him off camera, but he really shined for a while last year. 6-2, a 4.11 ERA, a little high, but I mean, he's a rookie, so that'll come down. 68 strikeouts and an ERA about 3.50, 3.59 to be exact. Matt, a big fear is that Nola, who's more than likely going to be at least eventually the ace of this rotation, is that there could be pressure and he could face sophomore slump, kind of like how a couple years ago Vance Worley was showing promise, but then everybody got the book on him and he kind of got faltered around a little bit. So how do you think Aaron Nola can avoid sophomore slump?
Well, Vance Worley isn't Aaron Nola, so
yeah.
I mean,
good point.
I think he's going to have another, second really good year. Like you said, his ERA will come down. He's just a really smart guy. I don't think he would allow himself to have a sophomore slump. And he's going to start probably on opening day. He'll be the ace this season. And if he's the ace, 2 years, 3 years from now, when they do turn the corner, you don't really know. But you at least have the chance this season to see what he does. Yeah,
I mean, you mentioned how smart Aaron Nola is. And Cameron Rupp, when the team was doing media a while back, had a really good comment about Aaron Nola, saying that, like, the best thing about Aaron Nola is the fact that, like, he knows himself. He doesn't try to pitch outside his skin. Like, he doesn't try to be like a Clayton Kershaw or Max Scherzer or whoever. Like, he knows who he is, and he tries to stay within himself instead of doing something like out of his own skin. And if he does something out of his own skin, he's open to people talking to him and saying, hey, like, don't try to force this so much. So, Alec, how valuable is that he's not willing to force himself and that he's willing to be a student of the game and learn and find out just who Aaron Nola is?
Oh, it's very important. If you put pressure on yourself as a pitcher, that's when things go bad very fast. If you don't know who you are on that mound, then you don't know who you are in baseball. No one will. So as long as you know what you're doing and you're comfortable, you will do well.
All right, and now we go from one Aaron to another. We go from Aaron Nola. Real quick, we'll go to Aaron Altair, who, of course, is probably going to crack the opening day lineup as one of the outfielders. 241 batting average, 5 home runs, 22 RBI. Matt, this is a guy who finally came into his own, and it seems like him and Abdul Herrera will at least have 2 spots in the lineup. So real quick, what does Aaron Altair bring to this lineup? We saw a glimpse of it last year. But
yeah, I'm putting Aaron Altair opening day in the right field with Odubel in center and Tyler Godell in left. Altair's, you saw how fast he was last year. He plays a great outfield, and he showed ability to hit for power. And if he hits for average, matched with his power, I mean, he's an everyday player right there.
All right, and so we'll be interested to see if he does crack the opening day lineup. We are going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the Phillies prospects, guys who are probably going to start in the minors, but maybe very soon could be in the big leagues. Don't go anywhere.
Feel like there's too many problems in the world, or that you as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old can't really make a difference.
It's not always about you. It's not just one person. It's a group. It's a team. If we all show up together, that's what it's all about.
I was a part of helping to build what it is today.
I'm really lucky to get to be a part of that legacy.
Just that simple act that takes 5 or 10 minutes of your time is making a difference and is transforming someone else's life.
Once you get there and realize how much you can change someone's life, it's one of the best feelings in the world.
I'd do anything to convince you just to be a part of this.
You guys keep doing what you're doing. It's something special.
Get up and try something. Just try it. Just go to one event, one action team event.
It'll just make you feel so good about yourself.
Welcome back to SportsTalk Philadelphia. Welcome back to our Phillies preview show. We got Matt Breen and Alec Costaful here. But now we talked a little bit about the players who are probably going to be on the current roster. But now let's talk about the guys who may not be on the roster come opening day, but possibly could be on the Phillies roster, if not maybe this year, probably definitely next year. So let's start with, again, Matt, earlier you mentioned the centerpiece. So let's talk about that centerpiece in J.P. Crawford, who is impressing everybody right now on the minor league level. Let's take a look at his stats. Again, 288 batting average, and this is just throughout the minor league, so both double and triple A. 6 home runs, 42 RBI, 12 stolen bases. Larry Boa, of course, Phillies bench coach, made the comment that earlier in the winter that he thinks that if all goes right, J.P. Crawford very well could be on this roster by summertime. One, how realistic do you think that is, Matt? And two, should it happen, or should he stay in the minors and develop a little more?
He just turned 21, so there's no rush, I guess, to get him to the big leagues. Right. But if J.P. Crawford does what he did last season, the way he hit at Reading, if he comes and starts the first 3 or 4 months of this season, you're going to be pushing him up to the big leagues, especially when you don't really have a long-term answer to shortstop. But just a quick little glimpse into J.P. Crawford. He's a great defender. He's got great range. He's got a great arm. He's got pretty much great everything on defense. Speed on the base pass, hits for average, can steal you a base. And I think the most important thing, like you talked about Aaron Nola's build and his how smart he is, J.P. Crawford has a swag to him. He carries himself like a superstar. If you're in the minor league clubhouse last spring, it's real cramped and it's all minor league 18 to 22-year-old guys, and he comes in and just standing there, you could sense his presence. He carries himself like a major league ball player, but like a superstar, kind of like Jimmy Rollins type. You're gonna love him. Just trust me on that.
That's exciting, Alec. Again, like you've been to, obviously you live in Reading. You go to many Reading Titans games. You've seen J.P. Crawford. Just obviously Matt already did a pretty good sell, but how promising is J.P. Crawford going to be?
Oh, I agree. Definitely, he carries himself very highly. When I see him around, or I get up, try to get an autograph or something like that, he's always seems like he carries himself more than a minor league player. He has that aura about him, to take the word that you used. But he'll definitely be good. I mean, there's a reason why he's in the top 10 prospects on like everyone's list in all of Major League Baseball. So just wait.
And not only is he like in around top 10, top 15 prospects and just overall in Major League Baseball, but he's ranked as the second best shortstop in the minor leagues right now. And I was starting to think back, how long has it really been since the Phillies have had like that kind of prospect? It's been a while. Like you've had like guys who have like shown glimmer and like they've come up and either fared well or they were Don Brown, but it's been a while since the Phillies have had like one of those centerpiece prospects since like a Jimmy Rollins or a Cole Hamels or even a Ryan Howard. Alec?
I'll actually go back further and say Pat Burrell, when he was the #1 overall pick. I think this was the last time that they had that much hype around a young prospect. And we'll see if the hype pans out, and I hope it does.
Matt, what are your thoughts on that, about like that promising of a prospect?
As exciting as it is to see like prospect ranking stuff, you mentioned Don Brown. I think Don Brown was the #1 prospect in baseball at one point. He's not even on a baseball team right now.
That's a good point.
And then the Pat Burrell thing is a good point, because that 2008 team was built around Pat Burrell, Chase Elliott, first-round pick, big-time prospect, Cole Hamels, first-round pick, big-time prospect. So they showed you how to build a team, and now if you're doing that again with J.P. Crawford, Nick Williams, and all these top prospects, that might be the way to another World Series.
One can only hope. And you mentioned Nick Williams. Let's look at Nick Williams' stats because Nick Williams is very promising as well. A .303 batting average, 17 home runs, 55 RBI, and 13 stolen bases. This looks like a guy who has a lot of potential to be, if not a 5-tool player, close to it. Of course, there's also Roman Quinn down in the minor leagues, but Roman Quinn is kind of more of a speedster guy who will get on base and then kind of be your prototypical leadoff guy. But Alec, again, Nick Williams, a guy who really shined in AA this past year. What are your thoughts on Nick Williams?
Oh, I think he's a fantastic hitter. He has a fantastic batter's eye, and he can hit that ball a mile, I'll tell you. And coming in last season, he was one of those like high ceiling guys and see if he pans out. And he's starting to pan out. So I'm really happy that the Phillies got him in the Cole Hamels deal.
Matt, do you think Nick Williams, like J.P. Crawford, maybe will have a chance to crack the big league lineup at some point in the summer, or do you think he'll need a little more time to develop and maybe he'll just be a September call-up?
No, I would actually put Nick ahead of J.P. Crawford because of the age difference. I think he's 22 or 23 now, and I expect him to be up no later than August with the Phillies. J.P. Crawford, I'm not locking in at all this season, but Nick Williams definitely will be here. I think he said he can really hit. Last year in Trenton, his first game with AA Reading, he hit one that still hasn't landed. It was incredible, and he's fast. He plays a great outfield. He's a really big piece of this puzzle.
All right, again, this is really exciting to talk about and see. So, but now let's move on to two pitching prospects. First, we'll look to the Ken Giles trade and talk about Vincent Velasquez. So everyone's talking about this guy. Not much minor league stats this past season. 4-0, a 1.91 an ERA, 41 strikeouts in the minors. There's an interesting buzz about this guy because people are saying maybe in the future he could be close to your ace, but if that doesn't pan out for him as a starter, maybe he could be a guy who ends up in the back of your bullpen. So Matt, what do you think about Velasquez? I mean, obviously everyone agrees that the Giles trade was the trade you had to make, and it's very well for them. But about Velasquez, in particular, because people are saying maybe he could make the rotation this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to start in AAA. I think they're going to keep a lot of these young guys together in AAA, kind of like how they kept them together in AA last year. But Matt Klentak was quoted a couple weeks ago that do you want him? Do you see him as a closer or do you see him as a starter? Well, hopefully we see him as a closer because you want to get the most innings out of this guy as possible. But if he's your closer and he does have closer stuff, then that's definitely a route that they could go with him.
Alec, what are your thoughts on Velasquez?
I actually think I see him more as a starter. I think he definitely has a shot at that number 5 spot this year, but I wouldn't put it past that they put it with Brock Oberholzer first since he's out of minor league options. So, but I think he will go to AAA this season, but we'll see where he goes, whether it is towards the middle of your rotation or to the back end of the bullpen.
All right, and that'll be very interesting to see. But now let's talk about another starting pitcher that they got in that trade, and that, of course, is former first-round pick Mark Appel. 10-3 in the minors, but a 4.37 ERA. Lots of strikeouts, but he hasn't really put it all together. He hasn't really been able to figure everything out. And that's why some people, when they found out Appel was in this trade instead of Derek Fisher, the minor league outfielder that was originally reported, people were kind of concerned, like, wait a minute, like, this guy is kind of a bust. But Matt, maybe a change of scenery is what this guy needs, no?
Definitely. He's that perfect change of scenery guy, if that's what you want to say. He's the number 1 overall pick. And obviously to be the number 1 overall pick, you have to have good stuff. The year before that, he was a number 7 or 8 overall pick. He chose to go back to Stanford. He finished his degree. He's a smart guy. We talk about Aaron Nola being smart. He's another smart guy. And I think he will, this could be the change of scenery he needs to really figure it all out and put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Roy Halladay, who when he first got to the big leagues, he got hit around a lot, but then he got down to the minors, figured it all out, and of course became the Doc Halladay that we all know today. But now it is time for, as I joked in the intro, the segment that I forgot about last week, the Fast Five. 5 questions to all of the panel. So, Matt, we're going to start with you, and we actually have a little visual aid for this. The Phillies, of course, a couple weeks ago unveiled their new spring training / business person special uniforms and the hat, which I believe they'll just be wearing during spring training and batting practice. Scale of 1 to 10, what's your grade and why?
Give it a 7. It's okay. It doesn't get you excited. I don't think anyone's going out to buy this jersey. It doesn't have a purpose to it. When they introduced those cream colored jerseys, they'll now wear on Saturdays and Sundays. There was a throwback to 1948 jersey. It was, a modernized throwback. This is just, it's a red, ugly jersey with a red hat without a logo you can't see.
Yeah, I was gonna say you
Pretty
gave it
bad.
a rating of 7. I'd give it a rating
that's
of
average.
like 5. Like,
All right, well, that's a failing grade.
I'd say 5's in the whatever.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. They stink.
We agree. They're blah. They're kind of they're whatever. All right, so Alec, we go to you. We talked about a couple prospects, but who do you think, either prospect or just on the roster in general, is going to be the wild card come spring training?
The wild card. Well, I think Velasquez will be the wild card because we're not sure where he's going to be exactly. Is he going to go to AAA? Is he going to be in the bullpen? Or is he going to be the number 5 guy? So there's a lot of questions when it comes to Velasquez right now.
All right. Matt Breen, next question goes to you. You're a pro wrestling fan. And, of course, my friend Alec
Not
is.
ashamed.
Absolutely not. But, of course, one of our favorite wrestlers, Daniel Bryan, retired this past week due to injuries. What was your favorite Daniel Bryan moment?
Well, I was at WrestleMania 30, like we talked about earlier, so I guess that's his pinnacle in the business, and to be able to see that, it was pretty cool. It was definitely a great moment.
Amazing. Alec, same question.
Since he gave WrestleMania 30, I'll give another one. When he turned on Bray Wyatt at the Royal Rumble.
They had a great match.
Yeah, it was great.
Look at us, getting all exposed as
Marks.
wrestling. We are such marks. But now, Matt, final question goes to you. We talked about how the Phillies, obviously, they're not going to contend this year, but over under 85 losses for this year.
I would put they lost 99 games. I'm awful with math, and I was trying to figure this out on the ride here. Actually, they lost 99 games last year. They're going to win 10 more games than they won last year, so they're going to lose 89 games this year.
All right, so
you do the over under.
Over 85 games.
All right, thank you.
I mean, who knows? I mean, if they do that, it's okay. They're rebuilding. So, but anyway, thank you, Matt, for joining us, and thank you, Alec. Thank you guys both for coming on, and thank you guys for watching. But of course, you know the drill. You can catch up with us all on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter. Our full episodes are up on YouTube, and of course, you can go on the LaSalle TV website, lasalle.edu/LaSalle TV. So for the guys on desk and for all the crew, thank you guys very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.